Hello and welcome to another episode of Asperger's Answers. With me, as usual, I have Miss Heather over here and Frank on this side.
Hello.
And this is the show where every single week we take questions from our Asperger's Autism Parent Support Network, also known as AE+, and we answer the questions in a little bit more detail than when we would normally answer in the group because, you know, people post so many questions and get feedback from all the 6,000 people in that group now, and there just isn't enough time for us to answer every single one with like a 20-page thesis.
Missive.
But yeah, a large missive. But we take 3 of the questions every single week, and we answer them in a little bit more detail, take about 10 or 20 minutes or so per each question. So as usual, I would love to say hi to you before we get started. Cindy says, hey guys. Well, hello, Cindy. How are you today? And McKenna and Ada, hello.
Hey, everybody.
Yes. How's it going?
Welcome.
Welcome to our wonderful show. So today we are talking about 3 varied topics. They're a little bit heavy this week. Again, we don't really decide the topics. That is decided by all of our wonderful members of the AE Plus support group. But, hey Colin. So today we are talking about out-of-home placement. We're talking about children being annoying, and we're talking about summer camp. So let's get right to it. Katie has the first question. I need anyone's help, please. I posted before asking for input on out-of-home placement. At this point, I'm feeling very backed into the corner and pushed into choosing out-of-home placement by our social workers from our county. We tried every resource available to us in our area. Our son is attending school now. He's a modified schedule, but he's attending. There was a time when he wasn't attending, and we have a truancy meeting this Thursday. However, we're not addressing his mental health at this time, their words, which is true. He's not on any sort of therapy programs. He's done them all. He has Asperger's spectrum disorder, ODD, anxiety, ADHD, expressive receptive processing disorder. Never heard of that one. That's a new one for me. And he's 14. His ASD wasn't diagnosed until 11. I worry out-of-home placement will do him more harm than good. Correct. That'll be confusing for him. Correct. Any input would be so appreciated. Frank, you seem to have a lot of thoughts on this. So,
we both have a lot of thoughts on this. Yes.
I mean, yeah. Personally, I would move. If the county is trying to pressure me into doing something that I don't think is in the best interest of my kid, I would go as drastic as saying, okay, then I'm going to go someplace where there are those resources that are available to him and in a supportive thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know that it's really extreme.
When you're in an extreme situation.
But, you know...
What sort of, the question I have is what sort of pressure are they putting on them? Like,
yeah.
I'm not familiar with too much of the governmental side of things, so it's more your realm and your realm.
We're going to go into that,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, when you have a kid who has a lot of hypersensitivity and school is very overwhelming, oftentimes attendance can be an issue. And there are a lot of laws in place in this country that build up, and I understand that the laws are for the purpose of if people are actually neglecting or abusing their children, that there can be legal action taken to protect the children. However, unfortunately, all or nothing thinking and zero tolerance policies really don't benefit people who kind of fall in the gray area of of school is overwhelming for my child and I have to swim upstream to get them to go.
Yeah.
And as a result, a lot of parents do end up meeting truancy officers.
Or homeschooling.
There were chronic strep problems in my home one year, and we were keeping my son out the recommended amount of time, 24 hours after the fever goes down or after you start antibiotics, and he had strep so many times that we actually had to talk to a truancy officer. And when I sent them his medical records, it all went away because we could explain it, but why we had to go through that in the first place was kind of ridiculous. So I would first say, you mentioned here that he's not in any sort of therapy programs, but that he has tried them all, and I'm certain that you have excessive documentation about this. But my question would be, what modalities are offered to you? We don't have a lot of information about what county you're in and what resources are available, but my first question to you would be, the social workers are pushing out-of-home placement because they feel that your child isn't getting his needs met, but what is their plan for meeting your child's needs once he's in out-of-home placement? I have worked in institutional settings before, and I will tell you that the biggest problem that everybody sees with out-of-home and institutional placements is that there is no exit strategy from the beginning. And if they're not presenting to you a plan that says, we are going to go through step 1, step 2, step 3, and then we see measurable results, then it's not a good plan. I understand that they might not want to see more of the same, but if the only suggestions they have for you are out-of-home placement and you honestly feel like you're acting in the best interest of your child, then it may be time to lawyer up and get some legal advice on what your rights are as a parent and a parent of a child that qualifies for special education, because there are laws to protect you.
The website Rights Law, WRIGHTS law, has a ton of great resources to sort of start and help with the whole process. It's a lot more towards like IEPs and stuff, but if you contact somebody there, they may be able to at least point you in the right direction.
And I would just say and validate this, that when your child is struggling this hard and having this hard a time, and somebody comes to you and says, this is in the best interest of your child to not be with you, it makes you really search your soul and say, am I not acting in the best interest of my child? And that is a horrific moment for any parent or any caregiver of a child, because we all really do want the best for our children. So please be easy on yourself. Adult up and take good care of yourself, because this is very stressful, and find out clearly the modalities, the therapy programs are having a hard time. Find out what other options are. If they can only present you with one option, that's not a choice, and they can't make it seem like it is.
James, in his wonderful spouting wisdom, he's a great member of our Facebook group that always has amazing insights, is saying, when I saw this question, it sounded like they were trying to check off a checkbox on some criteria they have, as opposed to actually measuring where he was at or what his current trajectory of progress was. Very concerning. I would agree.
Anytime you're talking about removing a child from the home environment, it's very concerning to everybody, and that's very well stated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know what your options are, as opposed to just saying, no. But if you can, say, no, because you say at the end of this that I worry that out-of-home placement will do more harm than good, and they'll be very confusing for him. Yes and yes. Like, you want to take somebody who's in defense mode and has a severe need for control and put them in an entirely new setting with people that don't actually know them best. That's a great idea.
Without a sunset clause, without an exit strategy, without a plan.
That's like a recipe for disaster.
And it also says to you that they see you as an unfit parent, which is tremendously hurtful. I'm really sorry you're going through this.
It's hard. Yeah, it is really hard. And, try to stay organized, keep your paperwork in order.
3-ring binders are great.
3-ring binders, keep everything together, because it's like, it sounds like you're in a situation where you're going to, need to provide documentation and do these things. And it's a really, really sucky place to be. But the more organized you are, the better. Also, self-care is going to be a huge part of this. The better care you can take care of yourself, the more you're going to be there for your son, because you're going to be able to represent him. You are his storyteller to the rest of the world, and honor that, and take care of yourself, and eat before you go. Make sure your blood sugar
eat good food,
and all these things. They sound, it's like, but when you're getting ready and you're stressed and you have to go meet off with these people, and it's really easy to start forgetting some of the little things. And those little things are going to be the things that build your resiliency as you go through this. And personally, my heart's out to you, and I'm sorry.
I have one other thought. When I see comorbidities like OCD and processing disorders and ADHD and Asperger's, one of the things that I have learned to ask myself is there a problem with their sleep? If you are able, consider getting a sleep study because children do have sleep apnea. It can severely interrupt their processing, their perception of time passing, their ability to focus, their fogging out, their attention span. It can be really powerful to, if he's having a problem with sleep, to get that remedied and then to see if his improved processing can make a difference. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, we have some comments. I'm just going to read them. Dawn says, my son was almost killed in placement. Sad face.
Oh my gosh.
So,
I'm so sorry.
I will leave that for what it is because that's horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah. Juliana says she was in the same situation and they ended up homeschooling. That is definitely an option.
Yeah, because it doesn't sound like they're presenting options here.
They're just like, this is what you should do. And honestly, it's like, it sounds like they haven't been successful so far. And honestly, I found that the government actually, in this case, is severely incompetent and doesn't actually know what they're doing at all. And will, in a generalized statement, most of the stories that I have heard end up being, and we tried it, and then it just made everything worse, and now we're picking up the pieces to get back to where we were when everything was still really bad, but not as bad as now it is now.
There can also be homeschooling resources available through your school district, and so it's not a all or nothing. It depends on where you live and what resources are available. Something to check in to with them. Maybe that's part of the option. I don't know, but there are local resources, and co-creating the plan. That's the biggest piece. If they're coming and telling you it needs to be this way or that way, you really need to look at this as you're all up for doing the best thing for your son, but you need to co-create the plan with them.
Yeah, make sure that it is the best thing for your son,
and have trackable, measurable things
that get routinely measured so that everybody's on the same page, rather than just we're going to chuck him into an institution and hope things get better at some point in the vague future with some unknowable metric.
That's tough, though.
We have a comment from McKenna here. It says, I don't think sending my son away would make him feel safe at all. He stated to everyone that he will kill himself if he had to leave.
So,
and asked me, Mom, it has me roaring for him. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, listen, when he'll tell you how he feels about it. And I understand when you're dealing with ODD, you're dealing with anxiety, you're dealing with processing disorders, that the other thing is to give your son time to think about things. Don't, when you're expecting on-the-spot processing and they just don't have that kind of executive function at the moment, it's not really kind not to hold space for that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're trying to hold space for him.
Mm-hmm. And if it does come down to it, framing and how you work with him through this transition is going to be huge on how well he's able to be resilient through it, through these changes. Yeah.
It's just sort of an unfortunate part of the system that we live in, is that certain times you need to play the game of the system and it sucks. But as they've been saying, get all your paperwork in order, lawyer up if you need to, and go from there and really, really self-care and take care of yourself. Doreen is asking if there's an article on holding space. There is. If you go on to, actually here, Doreen, what I'm going to do for you is I'm actually going to put a link to it in, Facebook's weird, so you're going to need to copy the link and then put it into your browser. But I'm going to give you the Hold the Space article right now. There it is. If you just go to our website, aspergerexperts.com, and click on articles, it's like the fourth one down right now, but I am just putting a link there right there for Doreen, so that there's an article that you asked for.
Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, that's how you hold space. If you want to know, I just put the article in the description there. Or if you're watching the recording of this and you don't see it, then just go to aspergerexperts.com and click on articles and look for how to hold space and help somebody process their emotions. And we also have a course on holding space coming out in about a month or so. that's it for this one. We're going to take a quick break, shift gears entirely, and then we will be talking about all day long. My son has been talking in the stupid robot voice and just saying weird stuff about everything being ugly. After the first hour or so, I was thoroughly ready to claw the walls. So we will be back in just a sec talking about that. I remember growing up and not really having many friends, wanting friends, but not having many friends simply because I didn't know how to be social with people.
My name is Heather. I'm the COO here at Asperger Experts, and I'm a mom. My son was diagnosed with Asperger's a little more than a year ago, and he's amazing. I'm trying to raise a productive, independent, self-supporting person. I need support to do that. I can't do it by myself.
All right, welcome back. So, that was a deep discussion, and honestly, it sucks. We sort of had a conversation over the break of like, we should just start a country so that this doesn't happen. So, coming to a piece of land near you. I don't know, what do you say to that?
Coming to borders close to you.
Yeah, eventually we'll just start Aspie land and just have our own country where nothing's done incompetently. Because we're all like, it must be done to precision.
And everybody's straightforward.
Yes, and everybody's just straightforward and says what they mean, and it's a brilliant thing. Cindy's going, I'd move there.
Excellent.
All right, so our next question comes from Melanie. And Melanie says, so annoyed. All day long, my son has been talking in this stupid robot voice and saying weird stuff about everything being ugly. Robot voice. After the first hour or so. I was thoroughly ready to claw the walls. I told him to stop, and he told me that he couldn't help it. So that's when I felt bad because it's probably part of his Tourette's, and he agreed. So I gave him some extra CBD oil, made sure he had to get extra good lunch, and tried to be easy on him, but it only got worse and worse. He made his sister cry and ran at several people at the park and told them that their dogs were ugly. Finally, Dad got home and heard him, so he told him to knock off the purple Shep voice, apparently a YouTuber he's been watching. Immediately he stopped, so this whole time he could have stopped, but he used his Tourette's as an excuse just to be a little about it, just to say purple Shep is banned from house now on. So, yeah, I have a little bit of color because I've been following this. It has not stopped. It has continued, and now she's still going crazy, going, oh my god, I don't know what to do. There's a lot to discuss in this one as well. I've been the kid that was like talking to their parents about the same thing over and over and over and over. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to meet some psychological need. He's like, scratching an itch. Basically, you have an itch and you're like trying to scratch it, and don't do it that way. You will get it some other way. You will get it done. And it seems to me like he's just trying to connect with you. And he's doing the best he can. And I can understand if a certain voice is annoying, but it's honestly part of it is on you to be with that and to connect with him. Like, it only becomes bad when you resist it and when you fight it. And when it's gonna sound weird, but what if you like joined in with him and started like riffing on it and doing this whole like doing the voice with him and stuff?
Sit down and watch the show with him and do it in the show, and build the context of what he's watching with yourself, and then maybe play with him a little bit.
But and then you say give him some extra CBD oil, make sure you had extra good lunch, and tried to be easy on him. Now CBD oil is great, but I don't think it will stop him from making the voice. I think you're just giving him...
But if it was due to Tourette's...
I see what she's saying, but the additional information from the comments and stuff is that it hasn't stopped.
So again, my most basic mantra when I'm having these moments is if I wanted convenience, I would have gotten plastic fish, not had a child. So the plastic fish thing is important for me because I got to tell you, I have found more Zen moments thinking about plastic fish than any other time in my life. Being a parent can be really tough. And when your kid has found your button and decides to tap dance on it, it can be even tougher. It's real and it's tough. And then you achieve this kind of Zen-like peace. He is
How do you achieve that peace?
Plastic fish. It's a mantra. You have to be with that. It's a mantra. You have to picture the fish, and you have to go, this is not what I chose, and then you have to own your choice. Your son is choosing a behavior. He chooses behaviors every day. Most of the behaviors are fairly easy to be around, apparently, or this would not be standing out. So the difference is not so much in him, but in you resisting your own feelings of annoyance. It's okay to be annoyed with him.
Totally.
You don't have to
like everything he does.
Well, you don't have to like everything he does, but you also don't have to act on every feeling you have. There are days when you just have to sit there and be annoyed with your kids and just let them process through it and allow it, because like Danny says, if he's working through and processing something, and remember, these YouTubers are celebrities to our kids. They're on the internet. And I wish that my kid saw my fame the same way in the show as he does YouTuber videos. But
look, you're on the internet, Mom.
Hey. But these YouTubers are celebrities. They get to say what they want. They get to be what they want. They probably, they get tons of money. It's all very exciting. So these people are role models for our kids. And banning him is actually showing your son that Purple Shep has a great deal of power in your house. And so what you can do is take the power away. And engaging in it is one way. Another way is to say, hey, clearly, since there are times when you can control it, there are times when it's allowed and times it's not.
I would like to add that when you say take the power away, that doesn't mean to take the thing away, because that taking the thing away shows that it does have power.
Exactly.
That is not taking the power away, that is giving it power.
Right.
Embrace.
Yeah.
Right. It's really counterintuitive to move towards the thing that's annoying. And go ahead.
I was going to say is, one of the things that I would do is sit down and find out what episode that this started with, because maybe there's something that he's relating to in the show that was done where
he's bothered by,
mm-hmm. And what he's trying to do is process through that.
Yeah.
The more you can sit down and kind of try to do a root cause analysis on it, what's the thing that's driving this,
mm-hmm.
If you can identify that or work towards looking at that, then the robot voice may not be even related to anything, but it's this other thing over here. And so if you can address the other thing over here, the robot voice will suddenly not be important.
Right, the ugly stuff, talking about how things are. I wonder if ugly means a different thing.
Yeah.
So
cool being not cool. I don't know. Who knows what these youngsters are talking about nowadays?
Them whippersnappers.
I know. But the other thing is that the thing that I see is that when Dad got home and was able to tell him to knock it off, what that is a new presence, which has it's a pattern interrupt. Mm-hmm. And so it sounds to me like your son actually responds to pattern interrupts. So maybe you could have your own annoying voice. And if Purple Shep comes out, your annoying voice comes out. You have options. There are always options in how you can choose to behave on your feelings. Your feelings don't have to change, but we as adults have the power to shape our behavior around those feelings most of the time. I'd like to think all the time, but I refuse to claim perfection. I wish you luck on this because that sort of stress is constant and can be very draining, especially if you're resisting it.
And I was going to say is that I have a number of awesome children, and there's definitely been times when one or more of them will be in a cycle of annoyance, either to us or to the other members of the tribe.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is allowing the space for it to just be there, and that not giving it any meaning just allows the process to happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is just the reaction that they're
feeding off of your angered reaction.
They're not like trying to manipulate you to do that reaction, but that reaction is giving them something that they're needing, and so
or is giving them power over the situation because they can get a reaction out of you.
Yeah.
Doreen is saying when you embrace it, sometimes they even lose interest, in my case at least.
And that's not uncommon. Another thing that I tell the children in my life, if they are consistently annoying, and I think I went on Facebook and commented this, was that I can explain to them, I only have so much energy in a day. And if you're going to use up 90% of it now being annoying, then I'm going to have 10% left for the rest of the day. And that means I'm going to be really limited in what I can do. So if you want to go to the store, you want to go have ice cream, I'm not going to have any energy to do that if I have to use it up coping
And that's
with this.
just being honest. That's like, look, you can choose to use my energy being annoying and like, Heather, hi.
So,
Or you can actually, do you want to go to the store? Do you want to do things? Like if you want to spend all your time going, hello, and like just poking me, and that's what you want to use all of your allotted energy to me time, then cool. And it's not like I'm holding back. It's a physical, actual limitation. Like when we do our workshops, we would love to have more people, but the room is a certain size.
Right.
It physically can only fit so many people in it comfortably.
Right.
So not because we're trying to be, we're holding back and being scarce. It's like, no, the room is like, it's only a certain size. We can only fit a certain amount of people in it. So you only have a certain amount of energy.
That's right.
And how do they want to use it?
And if I want more, I have to eat and then I have to sleep a whole night to get more. So, that'll be tomorrow. And it's possible to borrow from tomorrow's energy. If you're familiar with the spoons analogy, I can say you're using tomorrow's spoons. But just to kind of be real with the kids about where I'm at, and that I don't write a blank check to people for all of my energy in a day.
Yeah.
Also, when I'm in those situations, I know that if I'm hungry, if I'm tired, if I'm thirsty, frustrated, if I'm stressed from this other thing, that it increases the magnification of all the other things that are around me.
For me, especially with eating, like I get pissed off at the world, and then I like eat some Chipotle, and then everything's good again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one of the things is look at your own self-care and see how you can take care of yourself better, so that your resiliency is there.
Yeah.
Would you whisper to me? You whisper,
Language.
Yeah. Do you have any? Yeah. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add to this?
I think that's it. I think it's interesting. Does it say how old the son is? I think it's interesting that he can attribute something to one of his disorders that may not be to his disorder, which is actually, in my opinion, kind of a positive developmental thing. To be able to think past the truth is actually to be able to reason abstractly, and it's just a cognitive indication that your son is an interesting person.
Yeah. All right. What do you suggest that the stimulus on YouTube is actually inappropriate? Like he's repeating something that's inappropriate.
Well, we don't. It's people get very surprised that we don't actually do a lot of punishing in our house.
Yeah, or just recommend it in Asperger experts in general.
We do some corporal cuddling. I'm going to hug this out, but we don't actually punish. And so if when somebody uses foul language, really we acknowledge it by saying language, just to make sure that people are aware of what's coming out of their face. But if there is content on YouTube that is inappropriate, if it's something that my child can handle emotionally, and yet it's just language I don't want to hear, we kind of say, okay, you can watch that, but you can't act like that. If you put those words into your mouth and those actions on your body, you have to own them, and then you're responsible. And if you want to act like inappropriate YouTubers, then you might not be able to watch YouTube for a while.
Yeah,
until you make better choices.
What you're demonstrating through that is that you aren't ready for this. Like it's not a punishment. It's just a natural limitation of you aren't ready for this.
Mm-hmm. And you'll show me you're ready when you can handle it with your behavior.
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of the crux of the responsibility agreement as well. You will show me that you are ready through the behavior. Kim is saying, come to Tampa. I'm so burnt out as a single mom. Kim, we will be in Orlando, so that's as close as we are getting. We're going to be in Orlando in February. If you go to up at the top, there's a link, aspergerexperts.com/workshop.
And hats off to all the single parents out there, because it's an amazingly difficult job, and you're amazing.
Yes. I saw a video that was like these people coming in for fake job interviews, and it was like, okay, here's the job. It's 24/7. You don't get a break ever. You need to work nights and weekends, and in addition to that, the client is very demanding. Very little of it is gratitude, and you need to accomplish every single one of their whims. Is like then,
you're also the chef, the chauffeur, the babysitter, the tutor. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a language instructor. Yep. Lots of jobs.
And that.
It's big.
Yeah. So props to every single one of you that are doing that. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. We will be back with Carrie, who is asking camp. I feel like this will take some preparation, as I'm asking questions now. My 10-year-old is interested in an ID tech camp for learning how to code Minecraft. My main concern is social anxiety through the roof. Let's talk about that. We'll be right back.
Coming to Asperger's experts, life has been a little bit easier with my little Aspie, who will be 11 on Monday. It was very difficult at first because we live in Alabama, and there's not a lot of help or a lot of testing facilities or places to go that will actually help an Asperger's. They've got stuff for autistic, severely autistic kids, of course. But then you have the Aspies who are, very smart, very brilliant, mainly, for the most part, that I've heard, and that I've met, actually. And, but nobody really knew what to do, how to talk to them, what to do for them. And my son was severely beaten in kindergarten, and he digressed. He was doing really good, could tell me everything, his name, number, address, our names, everything. And after the beating that left him with a concussion and several bruises, he digressed. And we had to teach him to read and do everything all over again. And it took about a year to bring him back out of his shell. To bring him back out. And we tried ABC Mouse, and that helped. It really did. ABC Mouse is really good if you've got, a smaller Aspie. They'll just go right through it, I promise. But that can only take him so far. And, Xander, my baby, he writes backwards. And backwards on his numbers and his letters. He can write correctly, but when he's in his own little world, he's not thinking, he writes backwards. And he can read it. He can read it. Well, we thought it was dyslexia, and we took him and got him tested again. And they don't use the term Asperger's anymore in Alabama. It's mild autism. Okay. But we didn't know what to do. So we took him to get him tested thinking he had dyslexia as well. It's not dyslexia, they say. Don't know what it is. Then we found Asperger's experts. And let me tell you, it is the best $15. I would spend $50 a month if I had to. Danny, dude, brilliant on getting an autistic server for Minecraft. Brilliant. Because my little man is just flying through it. And my oldest son is a mod on the server, because he knows what it's like to be a brother of special needs. And he's really cool. But brilliant, Danny, brilliant. And, I've had some help from some of the ladies through talking about, through the website and everything, and it's helpful, and it's kind of hard to type a lot, so I don't really interact, but we read. My son reads with me, and I'll let him know that, look, baby, you're not the only one. Look at this. Look what this one's done. Look what that one's done. And he will always be, perfect, but he will always be him, and even at this age, it's still hard for him to talk around others that he doesn't know, which is how the beating occurred, because he didn't say anything, and teacher was watching. And I just thank you, Danny, for being so brave and courageous, and for taking the idea you had in your head and putting it out there for the rest of us, because you have helped a lot more people than you think you have. I guarantee you that. So from a family in Alabama, thank you very much.
Welcome back. So had all sorts of comments about defense mode and some other things. We're not going to really talk about defense mode too much in this episode. If you'd like to learn what it is, there's an article, or you go click on the link above that says learn more about defense mode. You can join us for a free defense mode webinar. Carrie from Los Alamos, New Mexico says, camp! Exclamation mark. I feel like this will take some preparation, which is why I'm asking questions now. My 10-year-old son is interested in an ID tech camp for learning to code Minecraft. Somebody was asking where do I find that. I would literally just Google Minecraft camp. I think it would be awesome, and he might meet some of his people. My main concern is his social anxiety is through the roof. He's only attending 1.5 hours of school right now, and last year he was only able to attend half of the week-long day camp because he got physically ill with anxiety.
Half is good, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the problems was it was mostly about building electronics, which I think he's not inspired by. I think he prefers computer-based anything. This year I hope to take the week off work so he can call me if he needs a break. I am also hoping his desire to attend will help him try to develop some of the coping skills he doesn't have regarding social situations. I have a thought on that, remind me. I'm not saying he has control over his difficulties. Right now he gets sick to his stomach, has diarrhea, gets pale, curls up and bald, shuts the world out. Does anybody have any thoughts on how to use this end goal he has as a motivational tool to help himself learning some social skills? I don't want to stress him out. I want him to remember sensory before executive functioning. I hope to empower him. That thought I had was when you said I also hope his desire to attend will help develop some of the coping skills he doesn't have. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is great to have, but hoping that he's just going to magically develop social and coping skills without putting a plan to learn how to be with it and practice developing those coping skills is not going to get you anywhere. You really need to actually legitimately practice the coping skills. Get some rescue remedy and practice using that. Practice being with it. Go to a somatic experiencing therapist. I mean, this is like the majority of work is talking about this stuff. But I wouldn't so much use it as like dangle the carrot in front of him and say like, look, now that here's your motivation to do it. What I would say is practice the coping skills because he doesn't want to feel anxious and you don't need a further motivation than that. He doesn't want to feel anxious. And then through that, then you can say, okay, you don't want to feel anxious. Let's help you not feel so anxious. And if you want to go to camp next year, you go to camp next year.
Mm-hmm. My son just attended a school camp for the weekend for part of it, and I was really proud of him for trying. And we did a couple of things to help him get ready. One, we had a plan and a clear understanding of what every day would look like. We talked through it as much as we could, as much as we knew about the schedules, about getting up and what the food would look like. We actually talked about how we'd walk into the cafeteria. You know, there's some of that going on. Actually talk through so that the ideas are familiar, because it's scary to go into a new place, especially when you have social anxiety. The coping skills are great to practice, and you can challenge them in the real world. Say, hey, let's go walk around a mall for 15 minutes and see if some of these coping skills can help. To also provide breaks during a day. Now, you say that you want to be available if your son can call me if he needs a break. Have an understood structure about those breaks. Does he have to try and go back? And if he tries, then he can call you again to come and get him. Or if he calls you for a break, the day is done. It doesn't really matter what you decide to do as long as you stick with your promises and you're consistent.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, if you say to him, hey, you call me for a break, we're going to take a 10-minute ride in the car, and then I'll bring you back and you can try again. Or, okay, if you call me for a break, the day is done. Either way, I mean, there's no wrong answer for what helps your son to cope. You just have to be consistent about it, because if you change it up midstream, it's going to throw his anxiety way high.
One note about that is that if it was, if you call me, the day is done, I would sort of be wrestling in my head if I was the kid of, I want a break, but I also want to come back, and there needs to be some room for flexibility there.
Also, you can have an interim talk to the staff of the camp about if there is a place he can take a break himself, or with a trusted staff person.
Yeah.
Again, there are always options. To think through the options beforehand is really the key. If he can have some space before he calls you. You know, there's also the graded intervention. Start with least restrictive to most restrictive. And those sorts of things will help him to cope better if he's thought them through from the beginning.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things I would suggest is, you know, pack him a really nice lunch of things that he likes to snack on.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't worry about what other people think. Pack it for him.
It's just good advice in general.
It is, but
Well, and stranger food can be scary.
Yeah, and so provide some of the security things for him, and know that you're there if he needs you. But it's like, cool. We'll take a break. We can come down. I can come back and hang out, and then once you're back on your way, I can go back home until the day's done, or you can stay there and help and be a helper. I can imagine that any program would not turn that away.
Yeah.
Well, unless you need a background check or something.
Well, yeah, and again, those could be conversations that you had with them.
But you're asking now, which is good.
Beforehand, as you're setting up the camp with the camp, whoever's providing it. One of the things that I found is with myself and many other kids that have Asperger's is, when you're doing the thing you love, time doesn't really have any effect in reality. So what will seem just like a few minutes to him could be a couple hours because of the time work continuum thing. So, if he's going to a camp and he's learning about things that he's interested in doing, his resiliency is going to be up and he's going to be more likely to hang out and be there, especially if it's not over his head. Electronics are hard. It could have been over his head and that. So, this might be a better fit for him from a interest perspective.
Fun story is that when I was I think I was 22, totally in defense mode and shut down, you'd think the last thing I'd go is a place with 1,000 people and loud music, but I went to a seminar and there was 1,000 people all doing their sort of expert thing in various different areas, and loud music and the whole jump up and everyone on their feet now clap and the whole seminar thing, and I was fine with it, staying up talking to people the whole 9 yards because it was doing something that I liked. So you'd be surprised the resilience that happens when it's doing something that you like. I think that a large portion of the withdrawal in people with Asperger's is a extreme version of I withdraw my consent. I do not approve of this to such a deep level that I will not engage in any way, shape, or form with it. And when you find something that they do like, suddenly they show up and they're here and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
Right, and you have their consent. One other thing that I find that is helpful with my son is that a lot of times I determine the tone of his experiences. And if I'm looking at him and being very concerned about his, feelings and if he's going to be okay and that sort of thing, he takes that cue from me and then he starts to worry about if he's going to be okay. And if I come in and I say, look, you've handled way worse problems than this, you got this, and I have confidence in him, he starts to have more confidence in himself. So just to say, hey, okay, we have these issues. The whole point of being a responsible person is to own your issues and to make iterative changes to support what you have to work with. And you don't have to play into a vulnerability to acknowledge the issues. You can still say there are issues. We're going to approach them with confidence and no bad thing.
So my mother is commenting saying, do I remember something about 6th grade? I don't. Can you elaborate further, Mom? And let me know what you mean. And then jog my memory, and I think I can get it, but I don't remember exactly. I know what happened in 6th grade, but I don't remember the specific thing you're talking about. But yeah, it's a motivation thing. You do the coping strategies and you have the support system around it, but at the same time, you're never gonna, it's really, really hard unless they want to. In anything, it's really, really hard unless they want to. In order to do any change, there are 3 steps. Wanting it, being willing to actually do the thing. In other words, you can want to lose weight and eat healthy, but if you don't want to eat the broccoli, you aren't going anywhere. And then the emotional capacity to handle and absorb that new change, because time you do anything new, that comes with uncomfortable feelings, because uncomfortable feelings are not the pokey thing, is just something that is unknown.
It doesn't feel right.
Something is new equals something unknown equals, you're going to get uncomfortable feelings. So we're going to take a little quick break here and continue talking about this in just a sec, so stay with us.
For a long time now, I've been sitting on the sidelines just trying to stay out of it and just watched with thorough enjoyment at Danny's responses and the window into his life and all of your questions and your incredible answers. And lately I've been been chiming in, and it's really fun to be able to help parents who ask a question about experience with IEPs or experience with homework. It's extremely rewarding to be able to give back and to help the community. And you know what? I'm still learning to this day from all the other parents who share experiences. And it's actually pretty cool to realize that I'm, to this day, not alone in this world, and how common many of the Asperger characteristics are from individual to individual. I didn't know how difficult it was for those with Asperger's to try different foods. I didn't know that there was sensory overload. I didn't know how common it was for people like Danny to walk into a store like Kmart with fluorescent lights, and how common it was to have a meltdown because of the overwhelm of the lighting. It was a very, very lonely experience raising a kid with Asperger's. And fortunately, today there are many, many more resources available. And that certainly would have helped us raising our son, Danny. You are not alone in raising your child with Asperger's. There are many resources available in this world, and many parents have been through very similar situations. There's no reason you need to be alone in this world when you raise your child with Asperger's.
All right, we are back. Robin was asking a question here. Having technical issues, but just want to ask this question. My son is 20 years old. He lives in a group home in a neighboring town. He doesn't want to go live back here at home and wouldn't feel at all safe here if he did, but he doesn't want to choose something else. He won't go back to school. He won't get a job, even available sort. He keeps telling us to board, but we don't know how to motivate or help him. Like, honestly, I'd say, dude, so it sounds like you want to change, but you aren't willing to change. So until you're willing to change, which is a decision, until you're willing to change, you're going to be stuck where you are, and you're bored, and that sucks. But your situation's not going to change unless you decide to change it. And if you don't, and right now there's no such thing as not making a decision. You are making a decision. You're making a decision to be bored and to not change anything right now. And if you want a different outcome, choose a different decision.
When I hear about people over teenhood saying that they're bored, to me it's like they're abdicating all responsibility for their own interest in things. They're putting it on somebody else to entertain and occupy them.
Amuse me.
And or, you know, I just can't be bothered. And the world is a very interesting place. And so I think that the first thing would be find what you're interested in. And if you can't find anything, then you're not really looking, because the world is a really interesting place.
Yeah. Frank, any thoughts?
Yeah. You know, I would agree completely with what you guys are saying. And maybe the motivation is, you know, sitting down and seeing what he has an interest in. Yeah. And going through the process of teaching him how to be a self-learner. It's something that is not inherently something that we get, you know, the lifelong learner, the being able to dive into a book or want to research something. The world is full of fascinating information and stories and knowledge. And all you have to do is look. So, you know, everyone, Danny and I were talking last night, and it's like, you know, why didn't someone tell me it was this easy? And you know, what is that question? It's, well, actually, no, we've been telling you all along how easy it is. It's just you haven't chose to listen. And it sounds like that's one of these type of situations is it's on him. And
I would let him know that. Be bluntly honest and say, dude, you're making the choice right now. You're just choosing to be bored. Sorry.
It's your choice to be bored. You know, there's the library, there's these things, there's classes.
There's Netflix, like
resources available.
If you don't have money, get a job. If you don't want to get a job, that's your choice as well. Tough. Like, you dug yourself into this pit. The answer to get out is right here, but I'm not going to reach for it for you.
You can't, because each person's passion is their own passion. And, you know, absolutely we can help people learn the tools and the techniques to discover what their passion is, but we can't pick the passion and we can't make them pick up the ball and run.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about adulting, really, is stepping up and owning what's on your plate. You know, you can gripe about it while you're a kid because you don't have a lot of control over your life. A lot of adults, we don't have a lot of control over certain things, but we have a lot more control than the kids do. So, you know, you can really own what's on your plate. You can own your own boredom. You can own your own behaviors. You can own your own choices.
Yeah. All right. So we are off next week because it will be Thanksgiving next Thursday.
Happy holidays.
You know, like, so December 1st, I believe it is. Yeah, December 1st at 1 p.m. we will be back. That's 2 p.m. Mountain, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. rather Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Thursday, December 1st, we'll be back answering more questions. So happy holidays. And Marta's asking, it turned on too late, can't watch it somewhere later. Yeah, it'll be right on our Facebook page. And if you'd like to join us for a workshop, feel free to go to aspergerexperts.com/workshop. And we'd love to see you in Orlando in February or May in Los Angeles. So this will be recorded and available on our Facebook page in about a minute or so. But we'll talk to you guys later and see you on December 1st. Later.
Take care.
Thanks.